Welcome back to Digesting Dark, and welcome to Season 2. Of course, Digesting Dark is the podcast where we are tackling the Netflix series Dark one episode at a time as we head towards the third and final season of Dark, coming out 2 weeks from today on June 27th. For this episode of the podcast, we rewatched the Season 2 premiere beginnings and endings, and we are here to talk about it in full detail as we know, as with the knowledge that we have at the end of Season 2. I am Zach Brooks, and joining me today, the young Noah to my mysterious man in the cave, Aaron Brooks. How are you?
Good. I'm looking at the man in the cave.
I have. We're gonna dive right into that because I have some interesting thoughts on that. But before we do, of course, this podcast, we are doing an episode on every single episode of Dark, and then once Season 3 comes out, we'll be doing new episodes without any future knowledge. So make sure that you are subscribed to Digesting Dark on all podcast platforms. We also are putting the podcast up on YouTube if you prefer to watch them and comment on YouTube. So just search Digesting Dark on any podcast platform or YouTube to make sure that you always know when we have new episodes out. As I say, like and subscribe. Jonas, like and subscribe. You need something to listen to while you're hanging out in the future.
Ultimate like bump.
Exactly, yes. That's Mikkel's favorite thing, ultimate like bump. All right, so we have moved forward 6 months in all of our timelines, so we are now in...
let's not skip my favorite thing, the opening quote.
Yes.
An opening quote from my boy Nietzsche. I'm talking about abysses and how when you stare into the abyss stares back. So just we've now had, I think, 3 different episodes open with quotes. Mm-hmm. And we've had Einstein, we've had Shakespeare, and now Nietzsche. So we've had a theoretical, I believe, or whatever Einstein is supposed to be.
Oh, yeah.
Einstein. We've had the playwright or the emotional Shakespeare, and then Nietzsche being the philosophical. So kind of maybe representing in a way the 3 different worlds, or maybe it's not, and maybe we'll just get another quote. I don't remember if we get any other quotes.
Yeah. Do we get any Jesus quotes? I feel like we need a Jesus quote.
That seems more like for devs.
Yeah, it just like seems that. Like, I mean, we talk about like good and evil and religion a lot in this.
Yeah, that could be where we go next is religion now. So we've had philosophy, we've had science, we've had
philosophy,
art,
science, art. I guess you would call, I don't know what you would call Shakespeare. Poetry, maybe, I guess. All right.
Yeah.
So, we open with that quote about the gaze into the abyss. And the abyss gazes back at you. I guess that would be a reflection, is the way you would talk about that.
Or a mirror.
Yeah, a mirror. So, and then yes, we go back 99 years from where we are in quote unquote the present to June 21st, 1921. So this is the first we're seeing of the 1921 because we did not see that in season 1. In season 1, we saw the 50s, we saw the 80s, 2019, and very briefly the 2052.
Yep.
So in 1921, we got this great cold open. I've mentioned it in another podcast. It's one of the things from this season that really sticks out to me. We have Noah and a mystery man. They are digging behind the door in the caves. They are mentioning Sigmundus. They are saying that quote. We didn't even need you to translate the quote because Noah ended up translating what Sigmundus Cretus Est stood for in this episode. He says, and thus the world is created. It's a good thing that he has the same translation as you. Otherwise, it would have been confusing. So.
Yeah, we use the same Google Translator.
Yep.
So, this is the cave being formed, I guess. I took this being an older Bartos. Kind of looks like him to me. So that's my theory. I don't know if it's ever confirmed.
No, so I put that this is 100% Bartos in my notes.
Okay.
Because this guy looks exactly like Bartos, and it would work as a really good loop that we have teenage Bartos and adult Noah in 2019 and currently, and we have adult Bartos being murdered by teenage Noah in the past.
Yeah, and so just kind of going through, skipping around the scene a little bit, he ends up looking kind of like he's shaken his faith a little bit. The Bartos character, we'll call him. Um, he has the Sigmundus tattoo on his chest, not on his back. So I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even pick up on that.
Seems really weird. To me, really weird placement for it, but maybe it was just, I don't know why they would do that unless that's supposed to mean something, but I don't know what that would mean, but could just be a style preference choice, but I didn't notice that. Talk about the beginning,
well, I mean, how being on his chest versus being on his back would be a reflection.
Exactly. Well. Yeah, I just didn't want to look too far into that, but yeah, it does seem to mirror each other or complete each other. Maybe the front says something different than the back. I don't know.
So yeah, it's interesting because if this is Bartos, and I guess we don't know who, we can keep calling him Mystery Man until I'm sure we'll get this revealed at some point who this guy is. It seems like this guy is guiding young Noah, whereas Noah the priest is guiding young Bartos later on in the show. So
right, yeah, and then there's also those who think that Noah could be Bartos somehow also.
I think this puts an end to that theory. Because we're seeing this Noah that we're seeing is basically the same age as Bartos, and it's not the same person.
Yeah, but the first time watching through, I'm saying you could think this was definitely Bartos.
Oh, yeah.
It's really positioned that way, especially as they go to some of the conversations later on. Really makes it
that Noah is Bartos, or that this man is Bartos?
That Noah is Bartos.
Yeah, I think, especially in the first season. I mean, that last scene that we get between them in the finale, the people making this show want you to think that Noah is Bartos.
Yeah,
but it's this puts that theory. It's nice that we get a confirmation of that theory is not true.
Yeah, and then we'll get to Adam too, but
so there's some more stuff that they talk about. So that he talks about the irony of fate, that paradise and hell, what if they're the same thing? And yes, they do bring up Adam, as you said, and this is now outside of the cave.
This is interesting when he brings up Adam to me, because the young Noah says, Adam says all things must happen the same way as they did before.
Yep.
So here's the interesting part to me is like, that's like that. What's the stranger always wanted to do?
To change things.
Yeah. So, and Jonas always wanted to change things, and we're told that Adam is Jonas. So are we to believe that the apocalypse changes his way of thinking, or what? Or do we still believe Adam is Jonas as much as it's been told?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. When we first started this rewatch, I was like, yeah, I could see Adam not being Jonas. I actually am starting to feel like, the stranger is this, Adam is the stranger plus an additional 33 years. So everything we're seeing in the stranger, he has not yet learned what Adam learns, and whatever Adam learns is what convinces him that everything must happen the way that it did, because we get a lot of talk of the last cycle. So this is, these loops keep happening, and these things happening a certain way is going to create the last cycle.
You kind of got me thinking about this too, because what the stranger's trying to do is make young Jonas do everything the same still, but he wants to do things different, while the stranger wants to do everything different now, yet Adam wants the stranger to do everything the same. And then who is wanting Adam to do everything the same now while he's wanting to do something different?
Yeah, that's true.
Is it God? Is it HG? Or is it, I don't know. I still believe HG plays a role. I don't know.
Yeah,
but what is it? But who is it that's interacting with Adam, who's wanting Adam to act the same so that they can stay and they can change something?
I mean, the name Adam is, the first man, God's son. Or I don't know if it's God's son, but it's the first creature that God created, first man that God created. So it would make sense that there is some God figure that is telling Adam what to do.
Yep.
Maybe it's Magnus. Who knows?
Yeah, this is a rabbit hole I just got down right away when I heard that. And then says, in 6 days they're going to be in paradise, and the hell on earth will end.
Yep.
So kind of biblical talk. And then Bartos questions whether paradise and hell are the same.
Right. Yep. So I was trying to take notes very quickly, so I have like parts of what they were saying. So yes.
The
Mystery Man questions that.
Yeah, and then the Mystery Man / I believe pretty clearly it's Bartos realizes why Adam sent young Noah. So whoever this is, Adam sent
the young boy.
Yeah, so young Noah, whoever young Noah was to start, because it wasn't Noah,
right?
But I think at one point Bartos says, "Ask him why he named you Noah."
Yep. Why he took you in and why he called you Noah. Now, I do think the phrase "took you in," I don't think that necessarily means that he took him from somewhere, as much as he like took him under his wing. Is how I interpreted that.
Well, do we know where Noah started? Who Noah's parents are?
We do not. What we do know about Noah is we know that his sister is Agnes, and we know that he told that story in the last season to Helge about the strange man who showed up at his parents' at the place where he lived. His parents needed the money, so they had like somebody staying with them, and he heard this man talking in the evening, and I would have to pull up exactly what the conversation was, but he tells the story about the man. I believe that man is going to either end up being the stranger or Adam, but it'll be some form of Jonas. So that's the mystery man that he tells the story about.
So Jonas is the father of Noah?
Not the father of Noah, but took him under his wing. So okay. I think like some version of Jonas. I mean, it would be an older version of Jonas. So like, somewhere between Jonas and Adam. If, assuming Adam is Jonas. Showed up at Noah's parents' house and stayed with them and said some things at night, which he had the room next to Noah, and that's what caught Noah's attention. And then Noah starts talking to this man, and Adam takes him under his wing and brings him into Sigmundes and then gives him to Bartos as like an apprentice. Led to this. And then, their apprenticeship is building out this tunnel. That's what they're doing together. And then this mystery man says, I hope that there's a day when you don't believe Adam, because it seems like the mystery man once believed everything Adam said, which if we think that's Bartos, that would make sense, that Bartos believed everything that older Noah told him and Adam told him, and then grew up to lose his faith, which they do talk about, losing your faith and not believing the prophecy anymore. And so this is like a big head spinning cycle of the Noah Bartos relationship. I think it would make perfect sense.
Yeah, so definitely a great cold open.
Sets the tone for the whole season.
Covered it. Yep. Yeah, pretty much covered it there, but yeah.
And the two other things at the end of the cold open that we do get is we get Noah looking at the book. The book will play a key role. We get that book a lot in this episode. We're going to get a lot in this season. The book basically has everything written down as what will happen, but there are missing pages in a version of the book that we see later on.
Yep.
And then the last cycle is about to begin, and that last cycle will be on June 27th, 2020, which of course is the day that this season drops. It's also the day that the last season ends.
Yep. So also known as the day of the apocalypse.
Yes, the day of the apocalypse. So we've gotten a Nietzsche quote, we've gotten the cold open back in the 20s. And I guess we don't know for sure it's the 20s, but everything else with these characters takes place in 1921, so I'm assuming that's right.
Yep.
So, all right, and then we move forward and we see Jonas's butt. Yes, Jonas and Martha are having sex.
Jonas butt.
Yes.
Cousin of Juicy butt.
Yeah. And Jonas says, "You and I are perfect for each other," which is the opposite of what Jonas said in the last season where he said we are wrong together. And Jonas wakes up from a nightmare. He says,
"Never believe anything else."
Never believe anything else. Okay. Yep.
And he uses this line, I believe, at the lake or somewhere else with Martha eventually. And it's, similar to Ulrich's words, kind of damning him when he says the heavy metal line to Egon and many other things he says to Egon before he should. Is that Jonas, by saying this to Martha, dooms the faith of Martha always being sure that they're right for each other. Because he said, we're perfect for each other, and like the height of their passion said it, and said, never ever believe anything else that they say. and says it with like real conviction. I can't remember the specific scene, but I do remember that scene.
And that's the one that's going to happen in a couple episodes when they're by
yeah,
so
exactly.
Did we even say in the cold open, just to jump back, did we even, I don't know if we said it, but of course young Noah does kill this older man. I don't know if we actually said that, but he stabs him with a pickaxe and kills him.
Yep, he hits him 3 times with the pickaxe.
Oh, I didn't notice 3 times. That's good catch. So, yes. So then going back, yes. So after Jonas is talking to Martha, his aunt, he wakes up from a nightmare, and he is in his bedroom, but his bedroom's a little different. His bedroom now is the future version of his bedroom, so he's in 2053. It is 6 months since the day that he arrived in the future. So apparently they just let him go after they hit him with the back of the gun. And Jonas is going to start going around town collecting some things. I wasn't sure if we could identify all the places. So he goes to one spot that I thought maybe was the school, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it was pretty hard to see. I think it wasn't exactly too important other than that his house is where he started.
All right, so the other places that we see him go, we do see him go into the bunker. Now, I'm still confused if where he ended up, and I'm probably just dwelling on something that doesn't matter, but at the end of the last season, I don't know if he ended up in the bunker because it did seem like there were windows in there. And this time he's, at the start of the season, he does go into the bunker, and there's, all the pictures on the wall and the threads and things like that, but it doesn't seem like this is the same place with all the guns that we saw in the at the end of the first season.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, honestly. Maybe this is some things that will get filled in with context as we go.
Probably. Yeah, I don't know why. I was getting very hung up on like, where is he going? Where are all of these places? So yeah, I also noted that Jonas is in dark green, so he's no longer in his bright yellow jacket. He's in the dark green jacket, much like the stranger will be wearing.
Looks like the jacket he's gonna wear for the next 30 years, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe it's the stranger's jacket that he just keeps wearing that.
It's gonna stink.
I think after 6 months, he probably already smells really bad. Luckily, in the future, I think that they have bigger problems than BO.
Yeah,
but he does have a bright yellow mouth, so he still has some of that bright yellow. Now, if you want to think that bright yellow represents his initial timeline or radioactivity, whatever, there's still a hint of that yellow. It's just not as much.
Yeah, and I thought it was weird how before he left the house, he took that picture with Enos ripped out of it. He took the picture, that seemed weird.
Yeah, the picture, we see that quite a bit, the picture with Enos ripped out.
And then he does something with it, very, very soon after that in this episode.
Yeah. And when he wakes up, he does also, I don't know if it's just to remind us about the letter, but he does pull the letter out of his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing is he goes and he sees the calendar in the kitchen, and the 27th is circled on the calendar. June 27th.
Yep.
So
and then of course there's my buddy when we get to the 2020 timeline.
Yep. Before we get there, in the bunker also he listens to a tape, which I think this tape is very important. So the tape is of Claudia 3 months after the apocalypse. Again, that number 3. Mm-hmm. And she talks about that if we can use the God particle, we can travel back and we can stop it. So Claudia, and we're not sure which version of Claudia this is, but there's a version of Claudia 3 months after the apocalypse. I guess this is probably the 80s version of Claudia, that age, not the mm-hmm. old woman. And that's probably what she dedicates her life to. So I think at the end of this season, she travels forward out of the 80s into the 2020 time period. I believe that's what it is. And then that would also make sense why she's recording things on a tape.
It also kind of just reminds me of how on one end we have a book that's kind of controlling one side of this, mm-hmm. that's telling people what to do. On the other end, we have audio, books, telling the other side what to kind of do.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's probably just a battle of light and dark again. And which one's light and which one's dark? We still mm-hmm. don't really know. Neither one probably is exclusively either one.
Yeah, I think that they both have shadows, I would assume.
Yeah, so, but that definitely didn't notice that. It's he has a box full of those tapes.
Mm-hmm. And the God particle that she mentions, we're not quite sure what that is, but by the end of the season, we will know that's the big black blob that we see at the end of this episode.
Yep, which is, I believe they describe as solid, gas, and liquid all at the same time.
Oh, okay.
And so it's probably past, present, and future also all at the same time. It's just
the three phases. That makes a lot of sense.
So,
and the three phases can be the same. The same item can be, if you think of like water, can be solid, liquid, and gas. So different phases of that item.
Yep.
All right, then we get to 2020. So this is when we get to see your friend, whoever that is. When we get on screen, we are told this is 6 days before the apocalypse, just in case you weren't paying attention. And we get the radio. Is this the radio guy? Is that what your friend? Yep.
My favorite character.
The narrator on the
radio. He may be my MVP of this episode. Spoiler alert ahead of time. And I'll tell you what, he starts out the radio announcement with "Morning, sleepyheads. First week of summer holiday here. More than half a year since the disappearance of 4 teens, a senior, and a local police officer." So that just seemed weird. I mean, it's like to start out with such a happy greeting, like "Morning, sleepyheads." Like that just really seemed to stick out to me.
I guess I just
not sure.
It's like exposition, but
why would he start it out with like "Morning, sleepyheads" and go, "Oh yeah, it's been 6 months since all these people disappeared in Winden."
Well, it's because it's been 6 months. Where there, I just saw a baby today who was celebrating his half birthday. So
happy half missing day.
Yeah, I don't know. That is kind of weird. I just took it as exposition, but and I didn't even think about the radio DJ that you've brought up before, but that was who was talking. He did say it's a beautiful day to go to the beach as well. So
maybe it's just like kind of once again showing how everybody in Winden wants anything but to admit what's really going on and the truth of things and try to just sweep things under. It's kind of a thing of Winden. Another point, I think, as he's doing his announcement, they show the picture of the Tiedemans. And did you notice the picture of the Tiedemans?
Nope. Do they look different now?
They're all smiling, cheesing.
Really? Okay.
And that's definitely different. It's a different picture too, but yeah, they're all smiling. And then it goes to some not great news with the doctor saying how she needs to leave her house and look at different treatment plans. And Regina doesn't want to leave, and now she has no hair at this point. Also,
yes. And also mentioned on that radio DJ or whatever you want to call him, morning drive time, he mentions that the feds are coming in to help look for these kids. I'm not sure I don't think you mentioned that. So
no, I forgot that part.
Yep. So and of course we do know that the feds is going to be led by Clausen, who we will see later in the episode. And yeah, we see Regina. The cancer has clearly progressed pretty badly. She's not looking good. She's lost most of her hair. Of course, her hair, which was something that Claudia, her mother, brought up about her when she was a kid and said that her hair looked terrible. Well, now she has no hair. And we get more characters texting each other and ignoring their text messages. Martha is now texting Bartos. Then she's texting him and he's ignoring it because he has other things going on, of course.
Bartos is in blue here. This is like one of the first times I can remember a character in blue.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody else being in blue before.
So, and he seemed kind of down throughout the episode, down and a little bit lost.
Well, yeah, he's been working with Noah for the last 6 months. So and I would imagine that, before Noah was giving him a book that said what was going to happen, Noah's probably been predicting all of this stuff. He said, yeah, your mother's going to get sick and she's going to lose her hair and they're going to tell her to go somewhere and she's going to say no. So it might be all of that. And let's see what else do we get there. So so Martha says she wants to meet him at the bridge. Then we go to the school and we see like a community meeting at the school going on with Clausen, and he's being introduced as the new investigator who's coming in 6 months later to reinvestigate everything along with Charlotte. We get Eric's father popping up. We haven't seen him in almost a full season. he stands up and he's really upset. And I was thinking to myself, like, your son is dead. He's been dead for a while, but I guess he doesn't know that. But yeah, I mean, his son is definitely not coming back. Some of the other missing characters, they could come back. Eric is not. Eric died almost immediately after being abducted.
So, yeah, he's gone.
Yeah. They talk about Clausen talks about why he's getting information from everybody, and he says, if one person tells you what an elephant is like, you only get that one person's perspective. But if you ask 10 people for their perspectives, you can put those 10 perspectives together and get a full picture of what an elephant is like. So.
Well, that's kind of why he says that. He says that more as a defense of his task force of 2 people, because they show the crowd and they're kind of all upset and they're like, this is your task force, you and someone who hasn't found anybody in 6 months. And then kind of defends that by saying that one person getting 10 different people's perspectives can allow for a better picture than 10 people having 10 separate perspectives. Also, Clausen starts with a Freud quote, which I thought was interesting, basically about how people lie and are kind of monstrous and whatnot. And then also he wants to make sense of the secrets that are hidden, that remain hidden. So
and I'm trying to remember what happens with Clausen, but he's there for another reason, right? Is he there because of Alexander? Like, we find out more about him later on in the season.
Yeah, but one of the secrets he does reveal that's hidden is all of the radioactive material hidden underneath the cement, which he reveals by the end. So it's not just the secrets of
he creates the God particle, though.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that's the gift of Santa Claus.
Yep. Oh, Santa Claus, I like that. And of course, cannot stop talking about Waller's eye, because his eye now has progressed. He no longer has a bandage. He has like Cyclops glasses.
Yeah, the budget for second season allowed for a better accessory.
I think it's because he lost his eye very shortly before the show started. And so it was healing, and now it's healed enough that he just can wear the glasses. So
that could be.
I don't know. I mean, we get like some teases to it, but I just think there's something about his eye that is like, why would he be in a bandage to start and then it's healed enough 6 months later? So if it's healed in 6 months enough, being go from a bandage to sunglasses, it must not have been that much earlier that something happened that required it to be bandaged in the first place. So
yeah, you're probably right.
We'll have to watch Waller. So we are also 6 months after everybody disappeared. Of course, 6 months is 2 times 3. So just pointing out that number. But speaking of 6 months, we see Franziska and Magnus. They are making out at the lake. Is this the first we've seen the lake? Did we see it at all in season 1?
Yeah, we only heard it Rock Friends. We never saw it, I don't think.
Okay, so yes, there's a lake in Winden, and we'll have a couple other very big scenes at the lake throughout the season. And Magnus seems like he's having a tough time. I mean, he's I don't know. I feel bad for these kids because Magnus lost his brother and lost his father, and his mother is really not there. But Magnus is just kind of weird. It seems like Magnus's pants in this scene too. One leg looked blue and one leg looked black to me, but I don't know if it was just the way the scene was lit.
I did not notice that.
Yeah. So I also wrote down that Magnus says that they've been clueless for 8 months. Now it's only been 6 months. So why would they have been clueless for 8 months? Had Eric hadn't been gone for 2 months when the show started, right? It had only been 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe Magnus is just a moron. Could just be that.
He may just, Magnus is stupid.
Yeah. So Franziska gets a text, and she says she has to go and pick up Elizabeth. Oh, Elizabeth, her sister, who was not at all in the first season. Suddenly we have to focus on Elizabeth. That's good. She's going to play a vital role in this season. So, and he follows her. Well, I guess before then we get a cut to Katerina going into the cave, so we know that's what he's doing. But Magnus is going to follow Franziska, and we'll pick that up in a little bit. Then we go back to the future. We see Jonas. He is at the wall, which the wall is blocking off what used to be the power plant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we see how he gets past the wall, if he just goes around it or under it. but he passes by a bunch of graves, and we see the graves with the death dates on there. We see Alexander.
Mm-hmm.
He dies on June 27th. We see Torben Waller. So Waller's first name is Torben.
Mm-hmm.
We see what I thought originally, I wrote down Martha, but it was actually Michael's grave. And we also see a grave for somebody named Justina
Jankowski.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe that's just like a random name, but I don't know why they would show that if that wasn't supposed to be somebody.
And there was something like scorched on top of that grave too. But I couldn't put together what it was.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. But what I did notice is with Michael's grave. So Michael died June 21st, 2019.
Yep.
And so that
6 days before.
6 days before, but a year and 6 days before. Mm-hmm. So he died 1 year before the present that we're seeing in this episode.
But in the 20s, they're also talking about how it's 6 days before the apocalypse, or 2. Mm-hmm. So beginning is the end.
Yep.
I noticed that there was like kind of that weird like family tree drawing on Michael's grave too.
Oh, the same drawing that's on the box that he gives Enos.
Yep. And Jonas leaves the picture at the grave.
Without Enos, though, the picture of the three of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, so then we cut back to 2020, and we see Martha biking down the forest road. I believe it's the forest road. I think she turns at your favorite intersection in Linden.
Mm-hmm.
And she meets Bartos at the bridge. When she mentioned the bridge, I was like, what bridge is she talking about? Then I realized it's that spot where the train tracks go under the bridge. So it's really the train tracks. It's not really the bridge. And they talk about what he is hiding. She accuses him of hiding something. And
yeah, she says he's changed and wonders what he's hiding. And then Bartos says his mom is dying. And that's
but she already knew. On. I don't think that I don't think this was news to her.
No, he's just trying to hide behind it really quick. But then she kind of throws that back in his face by saying, "You have a lot going on. My father's gone. My brother's gone. My mother's gone missing, or my mother's gone insane."
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think that they both kind of have this argument, and they both have arguments for things that are bad in their lives. It seems like everybody has things that are bad in their lives right now. That Bartos receives a text message from somebody, we don't know who, or I think we're meant to assume that's Noah. I don't think we see what that says, right? We don't see what that text says.
It says this evening.
Oh, it says this evening. Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, so it is Noah because that's who he meets. And we see Hannah sitting at her kitchen table. She is pointing the gun. She has Alexander's old passport and his gun. She then turns the gun on herself, and right before it looks like she might be thinking about killing herself, the stranger, older Jonas, opens the door and walks in. And this kind of reminded me of the beginning of Big, when Tom Hanks's character in Big goes back to his mom's house, but he's the adult version of himself, and she doesn't know who he is.
Yeah, she doesn't record quite as upset, but I put in parentheses here that when older Jonas is showing up, he could possibly be preventing something that's supposed to be happening at that moment in the suicide.
I think this always happened.
He showed up kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah. So, but it was like very fortuitous timing. I mean, he showed up right before she was going to kill herself.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But maybe it was always supposed to happen that way.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I don't know. I think he knew. I think he knew when he was coming in, that he was stopping her from doing this. But yeah, I think we're agreeing that it always happened.
Yeah.
And the stranger, when he's there, I'm going to keep calling him the stranger, even though it's Jonas. To convince her who he is, he starts talking about how he has a scar on his arm that he got from a yellow bike accident.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that, I thought that was interesting. Yellow bike. I actually was riding a yellow bike myself today.
Everything's connected.
Yep. And he talks to her about seeing her in the past. He says, "You found me 33 years ago," and tells her about the time when he was sitting at the bus stop and her and her father drove by and talked to him about the Chernobyl rain. And everybody has great memories because 33 years later, they can all remember this thing happening.
Yeah, I mean, when something is that odd and sticks out, you can kind of remember it. I mean, I can make a reference to a particular Mother's Day and a particular person, and
That's
you'll
true.
always remember it, even 33 years later.
That's true.
So,
Um, so yeah, that's how he convinces her that he is Jonas, and we will follow them throughout this season and where they lead. But I guess this, for the stranger, this is the first time he's seen Hannah that we know
yep.
of since he left. So for him, he hasn't seen his mother in 33 years. For his mother, she hasn't seen Jonas in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they talk a little bit about this, about just their relationship, what it means. She talks about her Jonas versus him. So,
yep. What she says, he's in the future.
Mm-hmm. Then we get some narration from, is it Noah that's doing the narration, where they're talking about no coincidences? I think I have this is
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Noah who's saying no coincidences compares everybody to a carpet and infinite threads on the carpet, and only a few individuals really realizing the role while the rest don't understand their role.
I didn't even think about I thought it was weird that he talked about it being a carpet, but I didn't even think about it in terms of threads until you just said that.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, the red thread played a big role in season 1.
Yep, and then he says everything's connected, and yeah, basically talks about how he's young Noah's inner voice. Older Noah says that.
Yeah. So. Oh, yeah, because at this point, this is older Noah talking to younger Noah in this in the scene.
Yep, and he said, when you're shaken, when your faith is shaken, just realize, listen to your inner voice. I am your inner voice. So similar to a stranger always telling Jonas, listen to me. I know what to do here. I know what's happening. Noah's doing the same thing with younger Noah.
That's interesting. And it's an interesting concept, right? That you and a future version of yourself, even though it's not you, this version of you from the future, you guys have the same inner monologue because you're the same person.
Mm-hmm.
So during this monologue, we see Magnus watching Francisca, and she's putting something into a box. And of course, we are also seeing Katerina, and she's looking at the maps and drawings of caves. And I think she's in the cave at this point. And then the building that Noah and Noah are talking in, it looks a lot like Jonas's house. I think it's a church, but are we meant to assume that this house was originally a church and then it became like a house that people lived in? Or does it look similar?
I think it just could be similar architecture. We've seen like overviews of Winden where all the places look kind of the same. They're all triangle, A-framed.
Yeah, because that's true. Triangle. That's interesting. Because we don't see this church in any future timelines that I can remember.
Yeah.
So, we'll have to pay attention to the architecture. And Noah says to his younger self that Adam would be proud, and it's just a matter of timing. He says, "How do we know good and evil? But we don't follow anyone. Everything's connected."
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting conversation. It's good that we're getting so much more of Noah. Of course, the older Noah is by the end of this season he will be dead because Claudia will kill him.
Yep.
Then we go back to 2053, and we see some bodies hung in the future. We see the woman with the scar on her face. There's a man speaking French as well that they're about to hang. And we finally see a mysterious woman in the future that we did not see at the end of season 1. We know that woman is Elizabeth. She has two different eyes.
Yeah, who now has different colored eyes.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't in the past.
Nope.
Or
and
as
child
a younger
Elizabeth
version.
doesn't. Yeah, child Elizabeth doesn't have different eyes.
Yep.
But they do say those are the rules. We are the future, and they mention Sigmundes. So even this futuristic cult, or whatever you want to call them, freedom fighters, they also reference Sigmundes. They talk about the prophecy that says the passage will open and they will go to paradise.
Yep.
So we'll get more of those people, of course. I think it was interesting that, I was trying to remember where I was, that if we knew that this was Elizabeth. Of course, she's also deaf, just like Elizabeth is. But right from there, we cut from this adult version to the child version of Elizabeth. So they're hitting you over the head. This is Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
So
of course, I remember being able to put that together right away.
Right. Of course, the part of it that we don't know is that she's going to end up with Noah and end up being Charlotte's mother.
Right. Yeah.
But that connection makes it really interesting when we do see in the 2020 timeline, we see Elizabeth and Peter. They're in the Tannenhouse shop. They're in HG's store, and she starts asking about her grandfather, and talking about HG, saying she wished that she could have met her own grandparents, Charlotte's mother and father. Of course, her mother is her, and her father is going to be Elizabeth's husband.
Right. Yeah. Pretty good line.
Yep. And yeah, she said, it's a shame I never met Grandma and Grandpa, which is that. Yeah, that works really well now, knowing where this season's going to end up. Yep.
She sees the picture of HG and Claudia.
Yep. And finds the picture of Noah as well.
Yep.
And this was interesting. In the last season, I mentioned like whatever happened to HG's shop. Like we don't really see it. I guess we do see it. I guess it's just kind of like boarded up.
Yep.
So, and HG at this time is dead, but I mean, we'll see him. I think we see him at other times. And that photograph with Noah also has the date January 8th, 2021. I don't know if there's any significance to that date besides it being 2021.
1921 or 2020?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So 1921. So, so it was a few months before what we're seeing in that 20s timeline.
Yeah, it's that Sigmundus alumni shot we'll see a lot of.
Yep. Then we see a conversation between Clausen and Charlotte. They're talking about HG and also Ulrich's voicemail. That Ulrich left the voicemail, and he's talking about expectations and how expectations lead to disappointment. And he
says voicemail lasted 12 seconds.
Oh yeah, nice. That's good. I didn't pick that up. Were they talking about HG, or did I just script writing my notes?
Yeah, I don't think they were talking about HG really.
He might have asked about her grandfather, about her living with her grandfather.
Yeah, I just had noted about the 12-second call.
Yeah.
And then Clausen really stares at Walter when he comes in.
Oh, does he? They are connected in some way.
Takes a long glance at him.
Mm-hmm. Then we see Mikkel's room. We see that poster that says "The Great Mikkel Houdini," and Martha is looking through all of the police stuff, and they see a picture of the steel door with the note that says "Steel Door."
Mm-hmm.
Then we go to Katerina. She's in the caves. Seems like she's just like totally abandoned her family. She's like only interested in trying to figure out what's good in these caves.
Yep. The notes that drove Ulrich crazy drove Katerina crazy, and they're going to drive Martha crazy, and they're just driving everybody crazy.
Yep. Then we get a scene between Adam and Noah. This is a really good scene as well. They're talking about the futility of existence, and Adam is asking Noah if he showed Bartos, and that he doesn't suspect anything. Bartos doesn't suspect anything. Adam says the apocalypse must happen, and tells him, even if he has doubts, he must find the missing pages and burn down the forest. And then they're interrupted by Adam's, secretary or whatever, and she says that they're waiting for him.
Don't we find out that's Francesca, or do we not know?
I think that we do find out that it's Magnus and Francisca, I believe.
Okay.
So.
Yep. That's pretty much all I noticed at this point. Was just setting up kind of a biblical enemy or.
Yeah, and there's also Adam has that piece of artwork in his whatever you want to call it, his office. That's like all the souls going somewhere. It's very biblical as well.
Yep.
And Adam also has like a nicer version of the character chart with all the family photos up on the wall. No thread. It's much more refined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and then we see Magnus. He's up against a tree in the forest, and he's overlooking where the bridge is. And Bernadette opens that box and swaps out the letter for another letter. So,
an envelope for an envelope.
Or an envelope for an envelope. But and I just have down written "welcome" and "love," and I'm not sure why I wrote those down. Is that what it said on the letters? Oh, that's because, yeah, now I know why. Because we see him follow Bernadette back to her trailer, and outside of her trailer, there's two neon signs. One says welcome and one says love. That would be why it goes down.
Yeah, she goes right in and she's right open for business.
Yep.
Like, doesn't take, even though she need to eat here.
Right.
As we
She's
find
not
out
actually
when
open for
Agnes
business.
comes in.
Right. So Jonas and Hannah are talking once again, and he mentions how Jonas tried to destroy the passage, but in just trying to destroy the passage, he created it. And
you're saying stranger?
Yes,
Jonas,
yeah, the stranger
right?
and Hannah. Yeah, the stranger. Yeah, yep. I know. I said I wasn't going to call him Jonas, and I did. And the stranger says that he's here to put an end to everything, and Hannah asks him what he's referring to, and he looks at the floor, which at this point in the show, you have no idea why he's looking at that spot in the floor, but we know that is where Martha will be shot.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what he's trying to put an end to. He's trying to save Martha from being shot by himself, by Adam.
Yep. He says to put an end to everything.
Yep. Once again, mentioning the word everything. So, and I think this kind of behavior does lend credence to Adam being Jonas, and that not being a misdirect, because it is just so interesting that it is a version of Jonas who kills Martha, and so it's not just like it's like a Bartos or something who kills Martha. It just makes it so much more complicated when it was Jonas this whole time.
Yeah.
So, then we see more Elizabeth. She is looking at. Oh, this is when she sees the picture of Noah. So she's looking at a book with like globe, like a picture of the globe with two different forces blowing on dark sides of it. It's like two different gods, basically, like a man and a woman. And I think it's supposed to like indicate like the creation of the world, maybe. But as she's looking at that book, she sees an old picture, and that's when she sees that Noah is that there's a picture of Noah.
Yep.
So.
We just jumped a little ahead there.
Yeah, I couldn't remember which part that we had that. Then we do see a shot of Noah looking at family photos. I think that's in Adam's office or whatever. And then we get a scene with Clausen and Charlotte. Peter texts about this is when Peter texts Charlotte and says that he discovered something about Noah. I thought this was interesting. Clausen asks Charlotte if he can have a ride in the morning because he doesn't have a license. So I think
this is a clue of something.
Yeah, it would seem like I don't know what. Do you know what that would be a clue to?
Either he's from this other world, like we find out later, or he's from the past, or somewhere he's time traveled from where they don't have driver's license, or he doesn't want to reveal who he really is.
Yeah, because it's just weird. I think, the fact that he can't drive is probably more indicative than like not having a license. But he must. I like the idea if he's from a different world. That could be something.
I think it could be a sign that, yeah. So
we see Jonas. He's back in the bunker now. He's grabbing a Geiger counter. This is where he looks at that coin necklace. So you brought that up earlier. The necklace is sitting on the picture of Martha.
Yeah, and that's Saint Christopher, who is he's known as a martyr, and he's the saint of travel, like the traveler saint. So,
interesting. The Travelers is this group. That's I believe that's what they're called. The Sigmundas. They're called the Travelers.
Yeah. So, I don't know a lot about religion here. Won't pretend to, but that's what I was able to Google and see kind of quickly. And they do focus on this pendant quite a bit.
Yep.
As the season goes. Yeah.
And so then we get a couple other short shots. We get Martha and Magnus. They're looking at all the cave stuff together. And we see Bartos enters the cave. He sees Noah, and Noah asks him if he's prepared. Don't know what he would be prepared for. I guess they're going to travel together, would be my guess. But I don't even know if we get an answer to what Bartos is doing during this scene.
Yeah, I don't think we know.
So then we see Waller. He is walking out of the trailer. And, of course, with Waller, you were supposed to think that he is getting some of the things from some of these sexual goodies from Bernadette. But no, he is. They were just having coffee. He hugs her and says, "Get in touch with Mom." So that is what you would say to your brother or your sister. So,
say hi to your mother for me.
Exactly. They trade envelopes. So she gives him the key to the truck, which the truck has all of the nuclear waste in it, and he gives her an envelope. So Bernadette's getting a couple envelopes. I don't know if the envelope that she got from Francisco was the key to the truck in the first place. I don't know how
they reveal what Francesca is doing with Bernadette later, and she's exchanging the hormone drugs for money.
Oh, okay. All right. So Waller is going to move that truck.
Yeah, I think that Bernadette makes some mention of how she's glad to be getting rid of this truck.
Yeah, well, that truck has been there for 6 months, and it's had all that nuclear waste. I would be glad to get rid of it, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, then we see Charlotte at the bunker with Peter, and they're talking. They have all the time travel stuff up on the walls. They add that picture of Sigmundus, January 8th, 2021, to their wall. So clearly they're working on figuring out some of this stuff, but Charlotte doesn't want Clausen to know what they're working on.
Mm-hmm.
So
secrets.
Yep, more secrets. And Magnus is now ignoring Francisco's calls, so more people ignoring people's calls and texts. And we see a shot of Hannah and the stranger. We see Regina. We see Alexander burying the nuclear waste in cement. I think that nuclear waste that he's burying is not the same nuclear waste that was in the truck. It's different nuclear waste, but I can't say for certain.
Well, isn't that from the truck that's being transported there at that point for them to bury?
Oh, so that's okay. So they take the truck, they transport it to the power plant, and then they're burying it. Why did they just bury it from the beginning? Why do they have to put it in a truck?
I think they had to prepare that, like the structure to bury it in.
Oh, okay. So they're burying the waste in cement. Clausen is reading a letter, and we don't know what his letter is. We see young Noah at the church. Then we see Jonas walking into the forest. He's the old. We see young Jonas in 2053 walking through the forest. He's walking into the power plant. He sees that door in the power plant that says Sigmundus on it. He sees a couple of those remaining yellow radiation suits, which we did see Alexander wearing earlier when he goes to bury the nuclear waste. And when he's in there, he enters in and he sees what we know will be the God particle. He doesn't know what it is. It's just a big black blob, and that's how the episode ends.
Yep.
So the area where he's standing is right where they were burying that nuclear waste just a few minutes earlier.
Right.
Yeah, a good setup episode for season 2. I think I think we were both saying that it starts a little slower than we would have wanted for season 2, but we got a lot of things setting the table.
Yeah, for sure. I trust the show implicitly, so I was okay with it.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Last year we were getting, or season 1 we were getting the 53, 86, and 2019, and in the premiere of this episode we're getting 1921, 2020, and 2053. So we're still only getting 3 timelines, but they're kind of expanded out in what timelines we're getting. We will get other, we're gonna go back to the 50s and the 80s, of course, but for right now, that's what we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think I did miss a scene where Alexander is talking about how they're decommissioning the power plant in just a few days.
Yep.
And that's where we saw, because I was like, I knew we saw those bright yellow suits, the radiation suits. So he says 7 days. So they're decommissioning the plant the day after the apocalypse is supposed to happen.
Yep.
We'll find out more about what they're doing at that point. Yeah, that was early on in the episode. So, All right. Anything else that you want to mention on this episode before we move on to episode 2?
Nope, I don't think so. I think we covered it.
All right. So we got to give our MVPs. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep our MVP ratings for season 1, and then I'll combine them with season 2 ratings. But that way we can always remember how people did in season 1.
Yeah.
So, who gets your MVP for the premiere season number 2?
Not a bad thing, but it's kind of hard to pick an MVP in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess I'll give it to Noah. Just overall,
I was going to give it to you.
He seemed to do the most. Other than that, I don't really know who else. Actually, you know what? I'll give the MVP to Peter.
Peter's first MVP.
Yeah, and I'll give it to Peter because he's finally, really it's a co-MVP between Peter and Charlotte. They're finally starting to not keep secrets from each other, it seems like. They're finally starting to work together maybe, and maybe they can solve this. So I'll give it to Peter for finally opening up and actually texting Claudia about it.
Charlotte.
So, yeah, right.
Yeah, that's a good reason to give Peter an MVP. Also because like they are dealing with the fact that they find a picture of somebody their daughter says she saw in 1921. So they're accepting some of this time travel stuff.
Yeah, and Peter's always seemed like a good dad with Elizabeth. He yelled at Charlotte when she was like mean to her that one episode. In this episode, she kind of handles when she finds a picture of Noah that could really upset her, not trying to like tell her she didn't see what she saw or question her, but just believe her.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Peter.
All right, that's a good one. I will give it to Noah.
Because that would have won. That would have won it. I was picking the hipster vote.
Yeah. Well, it's good that we don't give it to the same person. But so yeah, this is Noah's second MVP award. But he starts the episode. He plays a really big role. It seems like he is trying to make a move against Adam, and he's thinking about it. Unfortunately, we know that will not work out. That we know of, at least with this version of Noah. And we'll see. And he kills who might be older Bartos, but we're not sure.
Yep.
So, all right. So that is our MVP. So of course, Jonas is still in the lead with 4 total MVP points, followed by Mikkel, Ulrich, Alexander, and Noah. All have 2. So I'm kind of surprised we didn't get any Mikkel in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like they kind of split it down the middle here. So I think we get a lot of these people next episode.
Yeah, I think
we didn't get Egon, right. We didn't get Ulrich, we didn't get really much Claudia, we didn't get much of a lot of key characters.
Yeah, so the next episode is titled Dark Matter.
Yep.
Not to be confused with the Breaking Bad episode Gray Matter. And I think you're right. I think we will get some more of the 80s and the 50s timeline as well. So we'll go back to them.
Yep.
And we'll just keep rolling along. We'll be back in a few days to talk about that episode. Episode number 2 of season 2, Dark Matter. Thank you once again for joining us. Make sure you're subscribed so you know when our next episodes come out. If you want to send us any feedback, the best way is just to do that on Twitter. I'm at BrooksZA.
And I'm at Aaron Jay Brooks.
Great. And we would love to hear from you. We'd love to get some questions and comments as we're going through this, especially as we get even closer to season 3, because 2 weeks from today.
Yes.
Crazy. So, all right. Well, we will see you soon for episode number 2 of season 2, Dark Matter.
See ya.